Welcome everybody. Welcome to Herbology Hub for December 2024. And today's wondrous plant is nettle. Now, we all think it's this common plant slash weed slash stinging nuisance thing that's around. Nettle is very profound and there's a huge depth to this plant, and that's what we're going to explore today. And okay, so harvesting nettle. What are we going to do there? So mostly we harvest nettle leaf. That's the most common part of the plant you'll see around. So there's a few tips on doing this. So you want to harvest it early in spring, early summer, after the dew's evaporated in the morning. And you want to dry it quickly. Now, as we've covered before, always dry your herbs in the shade, not in the sun. The sun's just too intense. And for nettle to dry properly, you want a warm, dry day, but you also want really good airflow. And try and spread your plants out. Don't put them in big clumps, because if you get it wrong, the nettle will actually go quite dark in the leaf. So that means it's either dried out too quick or dried out too slow. And you don't want your herbal material to dry out during the day, and then it cools off at night and it reabsorbs moisture, and then the next day it dries out again, because that will just ruin the qualities of the plant. And we're harvesting this nettle leaf early in the season because later on it becomes quite tough. And then, as I've written here, you've got all these little calcium carbonate crystals that turn up in the tissue of the plant, and you do not want that because that's very irritating to your system. So early in spring, summer. Now, okay, so you cut it down, you'll get your harvest with the right weather conditions and good water. You may well get a second flush of growth and you can get a second harvest from it. But you don't want it when it's later on in the summer and it's tall, stringy, hard. That's not the best time to deal with it. Now, having said all that, there is actually a healing modality called urtication. So this is the very brave practice of deliberately exposing your body to the nettle stings. And I'm said here, the stings act as a rubefacient. And what that means is it stimulates your skin and brings blood to the surface. So it's through the process of heat or irritation, stimulating the circulatory system. So anytime you stimulate the circulatory system, healing is promoted because more blood, more oxygen, more food, more waste removal. And so looking nettle specifically as a Martian herb, let's look at all its properties. Intense, sharp, penetrating properties. Okay, we're getting stung. And then from the stings, we're getting redness, irritation, burning sensation. And Mars rules the blood. So what does nettle do with the blood? Well, it's got an iron content. It's also a nutritive and cleansing action on the blood, which we'll cover more specifically. Inflammation, heat burning on the surface contact, yet ingested inside, it's cooling as a tea and reduces excess heat and inflammation in the body. Male reproductive system remedy as a seed, and also the root as well. And Mars is stimulation. Nettle seed stimulates the adrenal glands and also the kidneys as well. As a burn medicine, really good. Of course, what are we talking about? You know, redness, swelling, itching, vesicles, heat. So it really assists recovery from severe burns, because it also helps the kidneys with the resulting protein burden patterns from all the destroyed tissues that suddenly are trying to be cleaned up by the blood system, and the kidney gets overwhelmed. So you can use it either as a tincture, a tea, or as a homeopathic for burns. And if you want to really know a good burn recipe, you want to jot this one down. So nettle tincture, agrimony tincture, sweet leaf tincture. Now that's a herb that's not commonly found, and you would add in rescue remedy flower essence. So I'm going to give you a story about this one. Anne, who I'd been sharing the property with, she was doing preserving. And as you know, with preserving, there's lots of hot water. You got to put the jars in the hot water and heat them up so you get the sterilizing action. So I was outside and Lachlan, her son, rushed out and said, quick, quick, mum's burned herself. Come inside and there's Anne, you know, there's red on her arm where she'd dropped the bottle or sloshed something or whatever. And she was pretty agitated, obviously. Luckily, I had made up some of this burn. No, actually, what had I done? I think I had made up some of this burn medicine. Now, I thought, okay, we're going to use a homeopathic approach. Let's try and find if we can treat the burn area with the right degree of water at the right temperature, not cold water, but hot water or warm water. Couldn't get that right. After a few screams in my ear, so okay, right, come back, sit down at the table. I got this bottle of tincture. I put it in a basin. I added some water, and then I had a cloth or something, and I said, just wet the cloth and dab it over the area. Okay, so Anne did that. In a couple of minutes, completely calmed down and she started issuing instructions for what we had to do with the rest of the preserving or whatever. So this would be a very good first aid combination tincture to have on hand in the household. Now, I owe my understanding of this to this lovely lady that I'm here, picture of yours truly. This lady's Weed, which is such a great name. North American herbalist, very canny, has done a lot of work on women's herbal medicine, but her signature talk is about 5 different herbs that you use as a herbal tea as your daily health regime. So I was very blessed to be able to go to one of her talks. So she's well in her 70s, and she'd talk for 2 hours and pranced and danced around the room, no troubles at all. So you use, obviously using the dried leaf, and you're using the long decoction method, which means I would use a French press. You'd put a wad of dried nettle in, you'd put the hot water on it, and you leave it overnight, let it draw for a long, long time, and then drink it the following day. And then you'd use another herb and away you'd go. And she carefully selected her 5 herbs because their safety range, that you could have them repeatedly, and also that they were mineral dense. That was one of the huge points, that we need to ingest those core minerals that we need. Now, if you're making your own making your own nettle tea, when you decoct it, which means putting hot water on it and letting it steep, it should come out black. That's how intense it should be. And you can sometimes get a second infusion out of it. And also, if you're buying your nettle leaf, you want to look that the dried herb is green, not black or dull green. It should be a good color. And that means it's been dried properly.